Welcome to the CMO Spotlight, and I'm so excited today to have the Chief Marketing Officer of NCR Voyix, Trish Nettleship. Welcome, Trish.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you. Um, NCR Voyix is a big company, and I wondered if we could just start by your telling us a little bit about how NCR Voyix came to be, because I know many people are familiar with NCR. I think it was like a 120-year-old company that was a national cash register originally back in the day. So tell us about NCR Voyix.
So NCR, National Cash Register, as you correctly stated, 140-year-old company, by the way. We like to
140,
say,
wow.
I like to say NCR Voyix is a 140-year-old startup. So I
Wow.
came in day one of split. So we were NCR in October 16th at 5 p.m. that afternoon. We became two separate publicly traded companies, NCR Voyix, which I'm a part of, and NCR Atleos. A lot of folks know NCR, previously Legacy NCR, from ATM, right? That's kind of what they were known for, the ATM and wraparound services for ATMs. That's what the Atleos brand does. That's their focus, ATM and all the wraparound services. NCR Voyix is all the digital commerce part. So that was we used to like to say it was the best kept secret of NCR. We wanted to be out loud and proud. So we decided to create NCR Voyix, which is all about the digital commerce. So we service retail, restaurant, and digital banking for banks. So our focus is 100% digital commerce. You go into a store, you're probably using our point of sale, don't even know it half the time. You'll occasionally see our brand go into most retailers around the world we service, as well as restaurants and digital banks.
So here we're both based here in Atlanta, and Atlanta is like almost like the fintech and transaction capital of the world, I guess. And so it sounds like NCR Voyix is very involved in that world.
Very much so. I like to say we influence moments. You have experience moments every day when you go in to buy something. I was down there at a cafe today having lunch. I was tapping my phone, paying via Apple Pay. You can do that, and we like to make those experiences seamless, so you don't even realize they're happening. And big part of it's payments, and so we are well connected in the Atlanta area with the fintech space. Payments is a big part of that. So we're thrilled to be a part. Make this our home. If you drive down 85, 75 in Atlanta, you'll see our building. You might see me at the gym on occasion working on the treadmill.
It's a beautiful space, by the way. I've had the good fortune of going to an event at the NCR and NCR Voyix headquarters, and boy, talk about a really great space. And the folks that planned that building did a beautiful job.
It is. I go downstairs almost every single day. We have I call it an indoor-outdoor courtyard because you're on the sixth floor, but you're outside.
Yeah.
So it's kind of unique.
Yes.
It's an outdoor cafe, an outdoor space where you can hang out, sit with your friends, sit with colleagues. I have meetings down there for lunch. It's just a great space. And today it wasn't quite as hot as normal, so I actually got to have lunch outside. It was a beautiful
Nice.
space.
So I'm curious about your role as CMO. Often that means that you have a team that has a bunch of different functions. So I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about your team and the different functions that are under your purview.
Happy to. I'll tell you, it's a very unique situation. Walking in, I've been involved in mergers and acquisitions most of my career, but walking into Split, this was the first time I've been involved in that. So I walked in, and you can imagine they took the NCR team, the marketing team, and split them in half, right? Just so I came in, I had half the team that they had before,
Right.
and some folks were in roles maybe they weren't thrilled about. So it was a unique situation to walk into and have a great team. People stepped up to do things that maybe they weren't thrilled about doing, but everybody kind of did what I call, they just jumped in, they made it happen, and did a lot of great work in a very short period of time. But because of that, we had a lot of work to do. We were a very decentralized marketing organization at NCR, Legacy NCR. We had the marketing teams we had corporate marketing, and we had the rest of the marketing teams dispersed in the business units. I'm very much it depends on the organization, but here I wanted to centralize marketing. So I spent probably the first 6 months bringing what I call lift and shift, taking the marketing teams, moving them over to my marketing team one at a time, move folks over. So we have our business unit marketing teams that were very distinct. They were self-contained. They might have creative in them. They might have marketing ops, a little bit of everything to deliver what they need to deliver to the business. So I've been here 9 months. I've spent a lot of time reimagining our marketing organization. We're transforming as a business. So we're transforming from a hardware-focused business to a SaaS-led business, that requires a very different go-to-market approach, which means marketing has to approach things very differently. So in that, we're changing our mindset. We're changing how we approach marketing. I'm a very data-driven marketer. So my team's having to look at data differently, look at how we approach value to the business, and always going through the lens of what's our business objectives? Are we helping achieve those to the point where we map out everything we do against our business objectives? So the way the team has kind of structured around that is we have our shared services model. So I have creative, marketing, ops, events, branding, and communications. I think I've got it all there. And then we have our business unit led team. So I have a lead for each of our business units, retail, one for restaurants, one for digital banking. And they really work closely with the business units. They even sit on the leadership teams for the business units, understanding what's happening in the market, what are our customers' needs, what value are we delivering to the market, understanding the products. They think about it from a strategic perspective and how we deliver against the business unit objectives, and then come back with a strategy that the rest of the team helps then go execute.
Excellent. Okay. And so are you still in growth mode with the team, or do you feel like it's still, now it's finally a finished product 9 months later?
I mean, Joe, is it ever really finished? I mean, we're evolution. No, we're very much growing still. We are evolving. I like to think of it as,
Yeah.
we're evolving what we need to do and some of the gaps that we have on the team. So we're constantly hiring and filling those gaps. And in all honesty, in any transformation, there's some folks who are ready to do something different too. So
Yeah.
I mean, I respect that and love helping those team members find the right position for them as well. So we have some folks that are leaving the marketing team, going to other parts of the organization, or leaving our business, and we have new talent that's coming in. And I have talent on the team that's stretching their limbs a little bit and trying some new things, which is fun to watch.
That's awesome. Well, and so I know you spent most of your life, I guess, and career here in Atlanta. I know you went to Georgia State University for undergrad and then also got a business degree there as well. And then I think you began your career at Hayes Microcomputers for 5 years, and then went on to spend a pretty good chunk of time at AT&T in a number of different roles. So I'm curious if you just give us a really quick kind of tour of the career path that led you to this current gig as CMO of NCR Voyix.
So while I ended up at Georgia State, I didn't start out there. I was 100% sure that computer engineering was the path for me. So I went to school for that. I joke I could still probably program in Fortran and Pascal, and I occasionally get in there and do a little HTML. Don't tell my team; they get very upset when they hear I'm doing things. So I have a passion for technology. That's kind of where I grew up in technology and loved that. So I started out that, but found out very quickly that computers in the basement back in the day were not the place for me. There's not a lot of people to interact with, and I'm very much an extrovert, so that was not my career path. Luckily, I figured that out after 2 years of programming. Ended up at Georgia State and getting my degree in marketing. Best place. I mean, it was such a great place to learn and grow. And it's changed so much. I spend a lot of time over there now as part of the marketing roundtable. It's grown and changed so much over the years. Ended up going to grad school there. I was working full time, having children, traveling at Hayes Microcomputers. That's a big brings back a lot of memories for me. So it was a great opportunity for me to learn and grow in Georgia State. I can't say enough good things about the school and the program they had even back then. They were ahead of their time. But I started at AT&T, not at AT&T, at Hayes. I started at Hayes. I actually applied for that job in the newspaper. And I don't tell you that to age myself, but it's just how digital and transformation has just in general changed how we think about jobs and everything we do day in and day out. It's been such an impact on my life throughout my career. So it just gives me a throwback to think of replying to a classified ad via the mail or fax, maybe. I may even fax in my resume. But I went to work there for 5 years. I was there for about a year and a half, and it was fun. We did everything through the channel. We were a global company in 60 something countries, about $300 million in revenue, which was a lot of money back then. But our founder didn't see the writing on the wall. So as things started to change and you started hearing about DSL, yes, DSL, we really didn't shift fast enough from a product innovation. So it was a good lesson for me to watch that, have that experience. But a year and a half in out of college, quite frankly, I got told, oh, you're taking over the team. So you're now responsible for 90% of our $300 million in revenue. You're going to work with channel partners and you're going to drive marketing for that. So talk about terrifying, right? Just, oh, now you're doing this. You're going to do packaging one day, point of sale. You're going to fly all over and meet with our customers and figure out how we need to manage our market development funds and help them drive drive revenue. Like, okay. But it really shaped my career, being thrown into things and just figuring it out. I didn't know any better. I was very naive. So I thought that was normal, right? You just get thrown in and, you're doing things you have no business doing. I thought everybody did that. So that was kind of really shaped my career very early on. I love telling that story. But in 5 years later, we were, about to shut the doors. So I left there, and decided that it was time for it to do something different. And back then, everybody wanted telco experience. So I was, Cisco and Nortel were the big players at the day. So they wanted telco experience. I thought, well, I'll go to Bell South, was in Atlanta. I'll go get some telco experience. I went to Bell South, ended up being there. We merged with AT&T. I don't know how many years. I was there 12 years total. So somewhere throughout that experience, we became AT&T. But every 2 to 3 years, it was great because I get to do something different. Like I started out, we were kind of a startup within Bell South. I was in managed network solutions, and we got to do some cool stuff there. We started introducing the cloud before we called it the cloud. I mean, that was we were doing some really cool, innovative things back in the day, and I got to be a part of all that. I did consumer marketing. I did a little bit of everything for 12 years. Again, another pivotal part of my career is I was leading small business marketing, digital marketing at the time. We had a website. We were doing some things. My kids came home and we're talking about Facebook. I'm like, what is Facebook? What is this thing? So I went to a little research. I'm like, wow, we should be doing this. Small businesses are surely out there, right? It was early. So again, being naive, not thinking any different, I just threw up a Bell or an AT&T small business site on, put up a page on Facebook, and overnight we got a lot of attraction. And before I knew it, I was tapped on the shoulder at the CEO level to go, we need you to go run social media for our company. I'm like, wait, what? Like terrified, right? This is like I'm still pretty young, but I'm like, okay. So I think what I learned through that, and it really impacted my career to think, just jump in and take some risk. And I always was rewarded. I made a lot of mistakes throughout that, by the way. I was the first one to say we need marketing automation at AT&T. Spent a lot of money on Eloqua. It had a really great implementation. Then I had nobody that could manage it for me, right? So
yeah, Eloqua is like buying a brand new Lamborghini when you need a Honda.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I don't ever want to say everything was roses because it wasn't, but I learned a lot through that. So it was there for 12 years total. It was a great experience. I have nothing but good things to say. I'm still a lot of contact with folks from there. Again, 2 to 3 years, something different. So it was a fun experience. But then I got called to go work for a pharmaceutical company and talk about. I thought telecom was regulated. I had no idea what regulation was.
Right.
But
And
did
plus,
that.
this is a Belgian company too.
Yeah, we were based in Brussels. So I started out leading social media for them, and that was really interesting because very risk averse companies. I learned a lot through that process as well. And I kept complaining, we got to stop thinking about social media as this thing over on the side in the silo. It's part of marketing. It's part of how we think about digital marketing. So I got called, said, all right, now you're doing digital marketing. I'm like, wait, what? I didn't ask for that. I'm like, no, but you said we need to be doing it. So now go figure it out. So it was just, I jumped into things without even thinking twice throughout my career that there was some consequence to that. But it was a great experience. I traveled all around the world. I was a week a month in Brussels, a week a month in Atlanta. The other 2 weeks I was could be in Shanghai or anywhere in Europe. It was just an amazing experience as we were really thinking about how digital marketing was just part of marketing, really innovating throughout the industry, quite frankly. We did some things there that no one else was doing. We were the first ones in pharmaceuticals to think about social listening. There's a huge risk there, right? You start listening to what people are saying, right? And all of a sudden you got to start reporting on these adverse events. So that was terrifying for the company. I had to go and present to the board to convince them that we should be doing this. But it was about innovating and putting patients first. And if we uncover an adverse event 2 to 3 years early, which the data at the time said we possibly could, that was to me a good thing. So company was a little gun shy when it came to me because I was out there. I wasn't from the industry. I didn't have the experience, but definitely was willing to take some risk on me, and it was a great experience. But 5 years of traveling like that, it was a lot. I had a dinner at one night. We were traveling in Europe with my family. I'm very passionate about travel. Second night, they pulled out this whole, we got to talk. I have 4 kids, my husband. I'm like, what do you mean? You can't keep doing this anymore. You're not home. You're missing out on everything. So it was a very,
they had this conversation with you while you were in Europe, ironically, right? You said
in Greece, having dinner, look at the Acropolis. I mean, I'm sitting in a
right.
beautiful
Like,
city.
you're getting this opportunity because of my
Right,
travel.
because I travel, right? So it was amazing. But it was one of those kind of pivotal. Again, I've had a couple of pivotal
Yeah.
moments throughout my life, and that was definitely one that I came home going, "Huh, I definitely got to do something different." So eventually, I kind of started thinking through that and left that company and took a whole year off from work, which I've been working since I was 14.
Yeah.
So that was
Wow.
an interesting experience to not work for an entire year. I did a lot of fun things. I traveled with my family over the summer. I spent time with friends. I went to museums. I did stuff that I never had a chance to do. But then I came home, told my husband one day, I think I'm going to buy the gym. He's like, "Oh, honey, please go get a job. It's time to go back to work." So
Right.
then back to work, and I spent a year at Manhattan. It was a great opportunity. The CMO at the time, fabulous lady, was trying to really transform marketing at Manhattan. If you're in Atlanta, you know Manhattan Associates, great company local here, but SaaS business. So it was a great foray for me into the SaaS side of it, really diving into SaaS
It's like
and helping.
warehouse management software, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, supply chain software, right?
Supply
So
chain and
they
warehouse management. Yeah.
soup to nuts. They do all of it. It's
Yeah.
a very well-known company here. They hire more graduates from Georgia Tech than any other local company. But it was a great place to learn about SaaS and grow up in that kind of understanding that space and how different it is. Did that for not quite a year. It was a great experience, but I was commuting an hour and a half each way. I mean, that's just, if you're in Atlanta, you gotta commute. That's part of it, but it just became too much. So I left there. I was tapped on the shoulder for a company called Bright Tree. Never heard of them, but they were 10 minutes from my house. I'm like, well, I'll definitely talk to them. Met with the CMO at the time and the CEO and just fell in love with the two of them. We were finished judges' sentences within 5 minutes of starting to talk. So I went to go work for SaaS, for another SaaS company, smaller company that was in the healthcare space. So home medical equipment providers, home infusion providers, really interesting space. Again, SaaS though. They had been purchased by ResMed, so they're a medical device company out of San Diego. They do, during COVID, you heard President Trump talk about them all the time. There are ventilators and CPAP machines is kind of where the bulk of their business, but they'd gotten to the SaaS business. They bought several companies in the SaaS space, mostly home medical equipment, home hospital care, home health care. So I ended up taking over marketing for all of the SaaS business. There was like 5 different companies, and we were bringing it all together. So bringing different marketing teams from all these different companies that were very siloed for a long time, we brought them all together, and I became CMO of that company. But it was interesting because I always joke I'm the accidental CMO. That was never my goal. I just want to do interesting work and go home at night and spend time with my family. That was always kind of, I want to do stuff that I feel good about. I want to influence people's lives as far as helping people grow and develop, and then I want to go home and forget about it. But what I wanted and what was innate in who I am were not aligned. So I realized that I really love what I do. I like having an impact on people, and I can't just leave it when I leave work. So I kept trying to solve problems, and eventually it landed me in a CMO role at that company. Loved it. 5 years was there, and really transformed how we thought about marketing, and started to influence the parent company, ResMed, out of San Diego. Spent a lot of time out there, was traveling. I said I was based in Brussels for 5 years, and I was based in San Diego for 5 years, is how it felt, because I was in
Right.
San Diego so much. And then I got the call from NCR early on. I'm like, NCR, what are they doing? That's interesting. So I talked to the folks here. I wasn't really looking, but when they told me about the split, I couldn't help myself. But what an awesome opportunity. One of the things I haven't done. And I want to be a part of transforming companies, transforming marketing, and that was just what gets me excited. And so when the call came in and said we're going to split the 2 companies, and we're looking for CMO to lead the digital side of the business, I couldn't say no to that
That's
opportunity.
awesome. So I'm curious if there's a piece of advice that you wish, not one that you got, but one that you wish that you got early in your career, or maybe it's a piece of advice you'd give to a young marketer that's just starting out in their career.
Yeah, I think from my personal experience, no one told me this. I had to figure it out on my own. And later on, I looked back and going, I wish somebody had kind of coached me along that journey. I kept jumping in and taking opportunities, but I never really thought about it. I didn't have a plan. I never had a
Mhm.
plan. I'm not a big planner, by the way. I'm not suggesting everybody needs a plan, but it was more of being a little bit more methodical about what I want to go do and how I
Mm.
want to do it. So in that taking risks though, I'm not a big believer in you just go straight up the career ladder. I don't think that's how it happens for most people. I think it happens for some people that way. But I know for me, it was about jumping in and taking the opportunities and not being scared to take those risks. But I would like to have been more thoughtful about how I approached it. Again, accidental CMO. There was no plan to anything I did. It just, oh, there's another opportunity. Let's go do that. I think if I'd kind of been more methodical about what I wanted to go do, things would, I'm not sure they'd be any different, but it would at least, I would have said, well, I tried to do that and I accomplished that. There would have been some sense of accomplishments. I think, thinking about what you want to do and what the best path is to get there, but not being so rigid that you have to do it a certain way. I've had people on my
Yeah,
team that I want to be CEO, so I've got to do X, Y, and Z, and I got to check all the boxes off. That's not how most of the time it works. You have to
yeah.
be willing to take some risks, take some laterals, and those things. I think I wish people had taught me through that, so that at least I wouldn't have been so like scattered in how I thought about my career.
Mhm. Well, to your point, I always used to maybe be jealous of people that had their whole path planned out in advance, but there's also a lot of value in the serendipity, right? That it comes along the way, I think. And that's what
Like a
I
happy
appreciate
medium
that.
somewhere.
Yeah. So I believe that everybody has a superpower. And so I'm curious what you feel your superpower is.
My superpower is building relationships. I hate to say I'm a people person, but I believe that everything that I'm capable of doing becomes from the people that I surround myself with. So any new role I start, you hear about stakeholder mapping and all that. I'm not a big fan of all that. I mean, it's important to know who your stakeholders are. Don't get me wrong, but I want to build relationships across the organization with everybody because I don't know where the next great idea is going to come from. It could come from the janitor that comes to my office every night that we start speaking, and he says I should do my office a different way. And by the way, I'm going to. Or it could come from the IT person that's doing development that doesn't think about marketing, but has some different approach to how we should be thinking about UI in our products. So I'm a big fan of building relationships. That's the first thing I do at any job I start is I want to get to know all the different people. I want to understand where they're coming from, where their agenda is and what they're trying to accomplish, how I can help them achieve that. But again, that is how I think about it, what I do day in and day out, whether it's my personal life or at work. It's about the relationships I build. That's the stuff I take with me. No matter where I go work is the relationships I build. And to me, that's what's helped me be successful.
Love that. Are there some values that you want to demonstrate as a leader, or maybe these are values you will require from anybody that wants to be a part of your team?
Yeah, great question. As I've been interviewing leadership team members recently since I've been here, I've had to really think long and hard about what is it that I want. I know the skill sets, that's the easy part, right? But what values do I want my team to see in me and I want my leadership team to be perceived as having? So I've been thinking a lot about that. Number one is I want honesty and transparency, right? I have been through experiences when I was at Bell South and we were bought by AT&T, they took away our coffee and our cell phones. Okay. At the time, we were all I didn't even drink the coffee, but I was super upset about the coffee being taken away because it was just a personal attack on me. I was
Mhm.
very upset about the coffee. And by the way, it wasn't even good coffee. But so I remember how that felt. And then we had a leader that came in a little bit after this happened and said, do you know why we took the coffee away? It is, I don't remember the exact numbers. Let's say it was 10 cents per employee per day to have coffee. That equals how much a year? That's how many employees we don't have to lay off because we're taking coffee away from you, right? That was like, wow, okay. I may not like the coffee being gone anymore, but at least I can understand why.
Right.
And I can get behind the why. So that really was impactful on me and my leadership style. So I'm a big fan of transparency. Tell people what you're doing and why you're doing it so they can get behind it. They don't have to agree. But if they can understand the why, it's a lot easier for them to support that and support you as we're making changes, especially right now as a company. We're transforming everything we do. We're going through a lot of change. And it's hard for folks that have been here a long time or even folks that just came in the door. So the more I can share with the team about what we're doing and why we're doing it, the more they're going to feel empowered and a part of the process. So that's my number one. I'd say number two value is I'm not a big fan of folks that just want to stay in their lane. Anytime I've interviewed for a job, I'm like, if you want somebody to just come in and do the job and nothing more, I'm not your person. And I love seeing that kind of, I don't know, just I love seeing that excitement and passion and team members were there. Like I see what I need to go do, and I'm going to do that. But I also see there's some opportunity to connect the dots around here and make us all better. That's what I always look for when I'm hiring. That's a hard thing to assess in an interview, by the way. But those are the folks I see go above and beyond and really are successful in their career. And I've seen it time and time again with team members of mine and other teams be really successful and change the game. Those are the folks that really innovate and help us deliver business value way above what we thought we were going to be able to deliver.
Right. So at Setup, we're marketing matchmakers, and that means we're connecting brands and marketing agencies together. And so we're not on the client side, we're not a brand, we're not on the agency side either. We live in that space in between brands and agencies. And so we think a lot about the relationship between clients and agencies, brands and agencies. So I'm curious, just generally, how do you see marketing agencies? How do you like to work with marketing agencies?
I've had a lot of experiences with different marketing agencies throughout my career. I was at AT&T, and we had the big agencies of record, the big names you can imagine. They were all in there at some point or another.
Yeah.
And I was on the B2B side, which we used to refer to ourselves as the redheaded stepchild. So we would get these great agencies, and I would get the B or C and D team potentially.
Right.
So I had probably walked away from that experience with a negative impression of big agencies having an agency of record. And that's really influenced how I think about agencies over the years. I'm a big fan of agencies, I'll say that. But how I use them has evolved over the years. I like project-based. I like bringing an agency that's got an expertise that's going to help up level what we're doing. So if I'm doing a rebrand, I'm going to bring in a specialized agency that knows how to do branding. Right? I don't want to hire for that. That's not a skill set I need all the time. So I want to bring in that agency that can help. And I've done that multiple times, worked at a lot of agencies with a lot of success. That's a great example. Another is I like fresh perspective. My team, you get to work for a brand, you've been there a year even too, and you start to get set in your ways. It's really easy. So I like bringing in agencies to bring in a different perspective. Let's go bring in an agency to think through this different campaign or this different challenge or this reposition ourselves. Whatever the challenges we're facing, that fresh perspective. So I like having a lot of agencies I work with on a project base. That seems to help me up level what the team does. But I've been more of an in-source model in the last couple of roles that I've had, with the agencies kind of coming in to support different projects. Now, saying all that, I'm always using a PR agency, always, sometimes multiple, as well as a media buying agency. There's a couple agencies that can 100% outsource that work too, and those are some examples.
Right. Well, and that leads me to, I'm curious if there are certain disciplines of marketing that you feel, and doesn't, I hate to use the word always, because it's not always, but are there certain disciplines of marketing that you feel are core to who you are and that need to stay in-house? And are there certain other, like you mentioned, media buying as an example of, like, we don't have to be amazing at media buying in-house. So are there certain other disciplines that you feel you typically would want to have outside of your core team?
Yeah, I'd say there's the discipline I want and that I definitely want on my team. As you think about content writing, we are putting our brand forth. We need to know the industry. We need to know our customers. I'm a big fan of the content writing, right? I want that to be in-sourced. I want to own that internally. I think that's part of who we are as a company, needs to be part of the core competencies of the marketing team. I mean, media buying for sure. PR is another one I'm going to outsource every day of the week. I don't have enough arms or legs to kind of team members to go and tackle what we need to do. And then there's times where we need to really spin that up. Crisis comms is a great example. You don't need that every day. Let's hope you don't need that every day. Right. So that's where I'm gonna definitely lean on outsourcing that. I'll give you an example. I came in and we had to launch this whole new brand, right? It hadn't been launched yet. We're a new company. We need to make some noise in the market. I'm bringing in an agency now to help us think about the positioning, how that kind of levels down to what we do in each of our business units, because we know that, and we've launched with what we believe is the best, but now I need someone to come in and hone it. And because we have so many assumptions built into what we say.
Yeah, right.
I need to pressure test that. So positioning, I think, is another example where I like bringing in outside thinking. because otherwise you get in a room, you could have sales, you could have all of us sit in the room. We all know this market. We know what we're doing. And then somebody comes and asks one question. And we're like, wait, what?
Yeah,
So
right.
I like to have that kind of pressure test sometimes. So that's another example of something I've been a big fan of bringing in outside agencies for.
Yeah. Well, and I think also there's some benefit sometimes that agencies work with other clients that are either in the same category or even in different categories, different verticals. And so they sometimes bring fresh thinking where, hey, we've got this automotive client that we have this great idea for. Or we've got this, CPG client that we're doing this thing for. And sometimes that brings you completely fresh perspective that, to your point, in-house, sometimes you get the same problems that you're working on today are the same ones you left yesterday when you left the office versus they're working on different problems for different clients and different days, kind of thing.
And that's why I like hiring from agencies too, because of that
Mm,
exact reason, right? Because you do bring a different perspective when you worked cross industry, especially when I was at the pharmaceutical company, right? We only like to hire from the pharmaceutical industry. So you
right,
kind of
right,
get
right,
that,
right.
you get that thinking that doesn't ever evolve over time because you've only know what you know. And so your
Yeah.
exact reason, bringing an agency brings that diverse perspective that you don't get day in and day out.
Okay, so I got two more marketing questions, and then we got some quick hit ones for fun at the end.
Okay.
The first is, as marketers, we often work with non-marketing functions within the organization, although many non-marketers feel like they're amateur marketers on the side. I'm curious, how do you demonstrate the value of marketing that's sometimes looked at as a cost center? How do you demonstrate the value of marketing to the non-marketing functions within company?
I love that you said that because I will tell you at least once a day I'm talking to someone. Well, I took a marketing class, so I
Yeah,
can I
right,
can help
right.
you.
Or my nephew's in marketing.
Or
Yeah.
yeah, I get that a lot too. Maybe we should call him. No, we're good. Thank you. I appreciate
Right.
your help. I mean, look, that's been the biggest challenge of I will say my entire career is to being able to explain the value to marketing to folks who don't understand marketing. And then you got and even worse when they think they understand marketing, right?
Right.
So what I've evolved over the years is really start with understanding who your audience is and what they care about. Because I can come in and to my CFO, for example, I know what he cares about. He cares about numbers. What are you delivering to the business? Show me in the numbers. So I can get
Mhm.
going to him and we can talk about the value and the revenue the team's generating, right? That's an easy conversation. I've got the data to support that. That's all he cares about. If I start talking about the brand awareness, he's going
Right.
to glaze over. He doesn't care, right? I mean,
Some
I'm not saying
metrics
he
are
doesn't care,
fuzzier.
but
Yeah.
right. He cares about the numbers. So I go in and talk
Yeah.
to him about numbers. And then I go into my business unit leader, who's, let's say, retail. He cares about what am I doing for his team and how I'm making his sales team's jobs easier. He cares
Hmm.
about the numbers too, but he's really focused on, are you helping my sales team focus on selling? What are you doing? So we talk about sales engagement. We talk about the sales training efforts the product marketing team's doing. So it's really about understanding who your audience is and tailoring the message there. Now, when I talk to the whole company, it's about excitement. I describe myself as the head cheerleader for NCR Voyix. And by the way, I was never a cheerleader before, so it's a stretch role for me. But my job is to get people excited, right? So when
Hmm.
I get on an all hands webcast, I wear, you can't see it, but I wear my
Oh
NCR
yeah.
Voyix gear. I got my purple on. And I talk about some excitement campaigns we're doing. We did a New York Times takeover, and I show them their company brand all over the airports and New York Times, and they get it, and they feel good about the company they work for. So showing value depends on your audience. There's no one answer for anybody. And my team, it's about showing their connection to the work they're doing to how we're driving business value. So it just
Very cool.
depends.
So last marketing related question is there a campaign or program, either at NCR Voyix or maybe in one of your previous stops, that was a huge success or maybe a huge flop and taught you a lesson that you really needed to learn? Either it was a huge success and you want to try to emulate that success in the future, or it was a huge flop and you felt like I needed that lesson to make me a better marketer for the future.
Yep. I'm going to go. I started to go with one from here, but my team members might listen, so we'll go with a different one. I'll talk about. So I think I mentioned when I started the pharmaceutical company, I had no pharmaceutical experience. They're very risk averse. I came in. I'm going to change the world. We're going to do so many great things. It's going to be
Right.
amazing. And I came in just kind of honestly arrogant. Like I'm gonna teach you guys how to do this.
Right.
And I went and I created this whole, I was leading social media at the time. I worked with my team. We created this whole social media campaign that was going towards patients. And we hadn't done as much of that when I came in. So it's all about patients and driving awareness for patients, and via social media. And I got roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. I got comply, because you have compliance, you have regulatory, you have medical, you have legal, every aspect of approvals you have to go through. And everyone said no. They just shut me down. And I went into my
Mm.
boss's office going, I don't know why you hired me. I can't do anything here. You don't need me. I can't do anything. And she's like, you'll be fine. Just go back at it. So back to my superpower, building relationships, I went back and said, I need to get to know these people and what they care about, what they're worried about, right? What are they concerned about? So I went and met with the compliance team. I met with legal, regulatory, medical, all the different teams that weren't necessarily in my team, but some of our teams that we worked with, and understood from each of their perspectives what were they so scared of. It was fear that that was just so different than anything they'd ever done before. So spent time with each one of those, and then kind of went back with my team. We reset, and then we were able to launch. And they still have one of the most successful social media communities in the world for epilepsy. And my team had a big impact on that. And I was really excited to see that. But the lesson for me is, got to bring people along on the journey, not just
Yeah.
your team, everybody, right? Even if you think you know best, and by the way, I didn't know best. I learned so much, and we had to make a lot of changes to be successful. But it was a big lesson for me to slow down, bring people along with you. Anytime you try and force things, people are going to be resistant.
Yeah.
It's a lesson
Yeah.
I definitely need to learn it, and I had to learn the hard way.
Well, I think we all do. Okay, some quick hit questions just for fun to wrap things up. Is there a quote or a book or a movie or a sports team or a band that inspires you? And what is it about that thing that inspires you the most?
Okay. A lot of different ways I can go with this, but I'm gonna go with Start With Your Why by Simon Sinek, the book. I make
Yes.
any new team I work with, I make them read it. I had to read as part of a leadership program I was in. I thought, "God, I don't have time to read this book. This is horrible." I started reading it. It wasn't until I read the book and it was impactful, but then we did some exercises as a team with the book that really changed how I looked at my job, my career differently, right? It just was onto my soul why I do what I do. You ask yourself the 5 whys, and by the time you get to the 5th one, you're like, wow. I mean, just there were actually people crying during this leadership development, and
Wow.
I may have been one of them, but I'm not going to admit that. But it was so impactful to me to really get to it's one thing to understand your business why, that's really important, your company why, but to get to your personal why,
Yeah.
it's game changing, right? Because the way I look at what's happening every day is so different as long as I keep that perspective. It's not about what we're focused on right here, the here and now. It's why I do what I do and the difference I'm going to make in people's lives, whether it's my team. Again, my why is about people. It always comes back to people. And as long as I stay focused on that, I can deal with any of the other stuff that gets thrown at me day in and day out. And so that to me was such an important part of my career. I'm actually, we're doing a intern program here, and I'm making all the interns read it, and they're gonna have to listen to me talk about it. So I'm pretty excited about that.
I saw a certain person that's on your team post a photo with all of the interns, and I sent her a note immediately, said, "Wow, I can't believe you're an intern again after all these years." I was so excited for her. She said,
Wouldn't
"Yes,
that
I
be
am."
fun?
Would be
I mean,
fun.
look, excitement from interns, I'm gonna miss when they're
Ah,
gone in a couple of weeks. It's
I
so
love it.
fun to be around that enthusiasm that they have. And
Well,
they're just excited to be here.
I've often told young people who graduate from college, nobody cares about the summer you were a tennis coach or you sold popcorn at the movie theater or you babysat. I was like, nobody's hiring you because of your experience, because you have no experience. They're hiring you because of your enthusiasm and your smarts and your energy and what you could potentially bring. It's not because of your experience.
Oh, you're exactly right. But we all need that enthusiasm. We need to be reminded of why we got into what we do. And interns do that for me every day.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so last question. Other than your family, which is too obvious and easy an answer, where do you find joy outside of work? Do you have any hobbies or things that you love to do? What gives you joy?
outside of my family, I have to say that out loud, my number one passion, and some people might call it obsession, is exercise. I am obsessive about exercise. It is, I get up at 4:25 every day, Monday through Friday. I'm at the gym at 5, Monday through Friday. I do a HIIT class Monday every day. And then on Saturdays is my favorite day because I get to spend more time at the gym. I go and I start with Pilates, I do a HIIT class, and I end with some strength training. But it just, I can't tell you how good I feel. I have a commute in Atlanta. I think everybody does. I'm driving in every morning after going to the gym and getting ready. And I just start my day off in a happy place. And without going to the gym and my exercise and getting endorphins going, I don't start out focused in the right way. And I don't bring my best self to the office on those days, or few and far between. But when I get to do that and just sweat it out and I feel good, I feel strong, gives me a sense of strength, is the best way for me to start my day. And just, I don't know, I come in singing in the mornings. I may not leave that way, but I start that way.
Hey, maybe you need a like midday exercise routine too to fit in there. I know y'all have nice gyms there at the
We have an
NCR
amazing
Voyix
gym. My
headquarters.
exercise is a little intense. I'm not sure that you'd want to be around me after I worked out any.
That's why you have to do it at 5 a.m. because you know nobody else is around.
Exactly. Yes, the gym's pretty empty here at 5 a.m. So it's good.
Well, so Trish Nettleship is the Chief Marketing Officer of NCR Voyix. Trish, this has been such a pleasure to have this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for inviting me. I enjoyed it.